Hi, everyone. This is Brad Myers, the Director of Compliance and Clinical Services for Carolina Therapy and Trinity Rehab. Wanted to do a quick in-service about GG scores, specifically some updates and reminders that were necessitated from clarifications that CMS issued on October 2023. So this video should not be all that long. I appreciate everybody taking the time to watch it. Accurate GG scoring is not only important when devising PDPM groupers, they are also used to determine the facility's short-term quality scores. So we do a great job in assigning accurate GG scores when the facility uses to configure the PDPM grouper for PT and OT for Med A reimbursement, right? So again, we want those scores to be as accurate as possible. And in order to facilitate that, just some reminders. You guys know that if you assign a refusal, dependent, not applicable, or not tested because of medical condition or an environmental limitation, that all of those scores, no matter what it is, for reimbursement purposes, all of those are the same. They all calculate as zero. But the configuring the PT/OT grouper for reimbursement is not the only thing that the facility is using those scores for. So I want to talk about some specific nuances of those scores. Specifically, not applicable. If an item on a task is not applicable, it means that the resident does not ever perform that activity. They have not performed that activity and they will not in the future. So this is a resident who is wheelchair bound because they're quadriplegic or they are a bilateral amputee with no prostheses. They are never going to transfer. They're never going to perform the walking items. Then not applicable would be selected initially, but also it needs to be scored for any time that GGs are collected on that resident for those tasks going forward. If it's an interim assessment, if it's a discharge assessment, it's always going to be not applicable. The resident doesn't do it and they're not going to do it. If you're going to set goal areas for that task item, it cannot be not applicable. And also do not be bouncing back and forth between not applicable on the admission GGs and then dependent on the interim and not tested on the discharge. If it's not applicable, it's going to be not applicable anytime the GGs for that task are collected. If the resident requires two people to perform an activity, regardless of how much physical assistance each person is providing, the GG score for that task is dependent. So this is a resident that I'm doing a transfer for, and I cannot transfer this person safely by myself. I call in the CODA or I call in the PT. Once the second person comes in, we both are providing very minimal assistance. The GG score still has to be dependent because it takes two of us to do it. Even though the two of us are doing minimal assistance, no matter how much assistance we're doing, if there's two people or more, that score for that item is always dependent. If the resident refuses to perform an activity on the admission assessment, but does perform that activity within the first 3 days, that refusal needs to be removed and the actual assist level entered for that item. So this is a resident that we're doing a day one admission on, and it's late in the afternoon. Nursing's done their part. OT's come in and done their evaluation. The family's there. They've had a long day, and they're going to participate in the PT eval so that the bed mobility and the strength and all those items can be collected. But they just flat out refuse to get out of bed to perform the transfer and the ambulation items, and a refusal is scored. But they do perform the transfer or the ambulation on either day 2 or day 3, even if it's with the assistant. The GG scores need to be changed from refused to however much assistance that they require, be it substantial, maximum, whatever. You wouldn't necessarily change the refusal on the evaluation because that is an accurate representation of what they did on day 1. But the GG scores in the GG tab need to be changed from refusal to reflect how much assistance that person actually required. So that's the admission GG scoring. I want to talk about discharge goal setting. So realistic discharge goal setting is something that I don't think we as therapists really think about, because we want all of our residents to be independent and safe when they go home. And while that's commendable, that's not necessary for everybody. A lot of you are struggling with, especially these managed care plans, not letting the resident stay in the facility until they're completely independent with everything. They're discharging them when they're minimal assistance or when they're supervision, depending on the caregiver assistance that the person is going to have at home. If therapy is setting goals that are too high, i.e. they're independent with all goal areas, and the resident does not attain those goals, the facility's quality measures are going to be negatively affected. So we've always talked about effective discharge planning needs to happen the first time that you ever see the resident. What is this person actually going to need when they go home? Do they have to be completely independent in all task areas? That may be appropriate. If they're going home completely independent, no caregivers, and they have stairs, and they're going to be responsible for getting in and out of the car, going to the grocery store, money management, that may be completely appropriate, but it's not going to be appropriate for everybody, and we need to think about that. If we set a goal that, if we undershoot the goal, if we set the goal for minimal assistance and they achieve that, and we want to progress them to supervision or independent, then we can do an updated plan of care to upgrade the goal. That's totally appropriate, but we really need to get away with setting goals for independence, very high level goals for all residents, if that's not what they're going to need when they go home, because if they don't attain them, that could have negative consequences for the facility. CMS has posted a new video that explains the new GG items that some of you guys have seen for personal hygiene and tub transfers. The link is right here, and I know you're not going to have time to write this down, so I'm going to post this link in the comment section of the video. I would encourage you guys to watch it. You can watch the entire thing. It's not as long as the full GG video that you guys have watched in the past. This is only 27 minutes long in its entirety, but you can also scroll to specific chapters. If you only want to watch personal hygiene, you can do that. If you only want to watch tub transfers, you can do that. And again, the link will be copy pasted in the comment section of this video. So again, I appreciate you guys sitting through this. If you have further questions about GGs in general or any of these updates, please feel free to reach out to me or one of the clinical specialists, or catch us on our next site visit to your facility. Thanks, everybody.